Hey, everybody. Welcome to Amp Up Your Modeling. Appreciate everybody joining us here today for the first in the series of Amp Up Your Modeling by BIM. I am your host, Jared Sutliff, one of the co-founders of BIM. And what we're going to be covering today is setting up your model with the focus on the electrical side of things. And then the three things that are really important to get you off on the right foot the first time, that you don't have to worry too much about downstream negative impacts and effects. Once again, yes, I am your host. I've been in the commercial construction industry in a variety of capacities, BIM, VDC, Revit for over 17 years here now. I specialize in electrical systems, creating models, working with the field teams, setting up projects, et cetera, et cetera. And I am also the trainer for our BIM Accelerate program. And what that is it is a Revit training program that focuses on electrical systems. And so you learn the basics of Revit with the out-of-the-box program, and also best practices, lessons learned by mistakes that I've made personally in my career, and things to watch out for so that hopefully you don't make those same mistakes yourself. A little bit of a fun tidbit about me. I love gardening and plants, and cooking and baking. And a little over a year ago, I started getting into sourdough, and damn, do I love it. It is so amazing. Makes the best toasted sandwiches ever. And my beautiful girlfriend named our starter Betty, and this was before she knew that was my grandma's name. And so it just is an awesome little connection between my lady and I, and my love for baking and sourdough. So, quick little bit about BIM Technology Management. If you don't know anything about us, we're 100% US based BIM service provider. We help MEP subs, specifically electrical, GCs and CMs with their BIM journey. We can do project augmentation, just help level out those peaks to help prevent team burnout. We can be your team if you have a project that has a BIM requirement and you're like, WTF, where do we go? How do we start? And our whole goal is to train you guys and your team up to be self-sufficient and self-sustaining, and we'll take a step back and just assist when you need us. So coordination, modeling, clash detection, training, consulting, fabrication, drawings, et cetera, et cetera. So without any further ado here, we'll get into the actual agenda of what I'm going to be covering today. So I'm going to be getting into Revit. I'm going to be utilizing Revit 2024. We'll be seeing a lot of the out-of-the-box different things, but I'll be talking specifically about Revit templates, the differences between templates and why it really matters, the importance of properly linking Revit models, the proper way of copy monitoring, why we want to copy monitor, controlling visibility of your linked models. And then finally, we're going to jump into what a work share enable model is and how a central model works for collaboration with you and your team on different projects. And then I'll be addressing a lot of common errors and pitfalls. And we also have a Q&A session of our Teams meeting here. So if at any point you have a question, please put it in the Q&A session and we will address them when we get to them, partially in and throughout, but specifically at the end. And just a word to note that it does take a little bit for it to refresh on our end, but don't hesitate, and might be something that we can address at after the webinar here as well. So I will get into the like I said, Revit 24. As far as template files go, there's two different schools of thought. Utilizing the Revit template file, or an RTE, or having a project that you have as your template. Now, the traditional Revit template file here, you'll see when we go in and we create a new file from our Revit instance here, our template file is one of a couple of different ones. I've got 4 of them that are the default out of the box. So we've got the Imperial Multidiscipline, the Construction default, and Electrical default. I'm going to start by utilizing the Construction default, just so we can see what that looks like. And so what this is utilizing is the RTE file to create a new project. And based off of the information that we have, we can create a project template from that file as well. So you'll notice it takes a little bit to get started and load in, because it is taking all of the content, the views, sheets, everything that we have created in that template file, and it's populating that into a new project. So this one being the construction-based template, you'll see it's already got a couple of different levels in here, 3-dimensional views, elevations, and a couple of sheets that are already populated with a handful of our views. The reason that the template is so important is because if I go in here and I create a new project and I use the electrical default instead of the construction default, you'll see that our project browser looks very different. And the baseline here, the electrical default starts off with our lighting plans, our floor plans for lighting, our ceiling, reflected ceiling plans for lighting, power plans, default 3D view, a handful of elevations. And you'll see there aren't any pre-created sheets either. So that's the main difference between what your template file can do for you, how you have it set up, and content that you already have populated with views, sheets, families that are loaded as well are saved within that, and Revit remembers what those are and how they correlate to all of your projects. The reason that we want to have a proper setup is the content that you use, say 80% of the time, you want to have that into your template so that you're constantly not having to go and find and bring in other families or views that you have or sheets that you always have. And one of the other things that you can do as well is create what's called a splash screen. And if you're familiar with Revit or receiving projects, you may be familiar with that and have seen it. It's a page that has content in it that talks about project specific elements. And you can have that be the default to open anytime you open up your project. The other thing that you'll notice as well with the construction-based template file that we used, okay, I want to place some electrical equipment. When I go to select that, no electrical equipment families are loaded. So now, okay, well, shoot, I got to go in, I got to go to my insert, I got to load a family if we have our own content, or go to the Autodesk default family library to get to my electrical generation and distribution, or sorry, distribution to then load in these specific families. Whereas if I go into the Revit electrical template file and I go to my systems and electrical equipment, you'll see it already, excuse me, we already have transformers, Ethernet, 208 MLO and a 480 MLO already preloaded into this project. So these families were loaded into our template file before we saved it out as the template file. So already we're starting to generate some efficiencies by pre-thinking all of the elements and things that we have and that we use consistently between our projects. And Conduits and pipes and those types of families are system-based families. And so they're always going to be loaded into your project. So you'll always have conduits that you can utilize. But as you'll see here, the different types of conduits are not available. So we would have to go through and create and edit and adjust. And the other thing that you'll notice here as well, we don't have any fittings associated with this system family either. So we would have to go through and set that up every single time that we created a project. Now, once again, back into the electrical out of the box template. If I go into my systems and I select my conduit, you'll see that there are already 4 different types in here, EMT, RMC, RNC, Schedule 40, and 80. And then if we take a look at our type as far as the Schedule 40, you'll see that it's automatic. It's already got these different fittings associated with these different types of transitions. So you can see it's already got the standard rigid non-metallic conduit as our fittings for Schedule 40. And if I swap this over to the EMT, you'll see, boom, we've already got it. It's already associated with the EMT. And so we don't have to set that up every single time we create our project. All right. So what does that mean from a company-wide standard? The other things that are a part of the template file are your line weights. And if you have, let's say you're an electrical contractor that also does some design, we can have the cover sheet and the symbols and abbreviation sheets already created, all of those, all of that content populated via a drafting view or a legend, and we're all set and ready to go. And that's for the template file itself. As we get going into the other aspects of project setup, we'll talk about the linked files. And the linked files the school of thought is if we're doing a project template file versus the Revit template, that will allow us to associate, I'm going to call them dummy links, into our base project file. And then we can have our view templates already associated with the visibility graphics overrides for links, and have all of our adjustments pre-done for all of our view templates as well. So then when we relink or repath our architectural, structural, mechanical, electrical, plumbing models, etc., the visibility and adjustments to those Revit links will automatically be captured and translate through those view templates as well. I know I'm talking a lot. I feel like I'm talking very, very fast, but there is a lot to cover, even with just this basic project setup file that we're doing. So I want to make sure that I'm hitting all of the notes and covering some of the specifics as to why certain things are done certain ways. So I know I don't want this construction-based template, so I'm just going to remove this project and say, no, I do not want to save. And so we've got our floor plan here. You'll see we've got our levels 1 and levels 2 already associated with this. And the levels that are associated, there needs to be a minimum of 1 level in every single Revit project that's created, because that's how Revit knows and understands where those elements are placed within 3-dimensional space. And so in this particular case, the electrical out of the box template has a level 1 and a level 2. All right, Jared, that's fantastic. How do you know that? Well, other than it being 1 and 2 here, if we create a section to view everything from a slice through our three-dimensional space here. So under our view tab, I'm going to create a section, and I'm just going to make a really wide, long section here. And I'm also going to make it very, very deep, because when we bring in our architectural model or any of our Revit links, I want to be able to see it in its entirety, so that as we go through the rest of our project setup, I can identify that I am capturing all of the important elements. And so within that, I'm in my training, I always harp on proper naming. So in this particular section that I have, this is going to be my personal working. So I'm going to name it working with my initials. And that allows me to be able to search for it in my project browser. And also, if anybody else comes into the project and they see this obnoxious, gigantic section, instead of deleting it, they'll go, oh, okay, all right, well, this happens to be Jared's working section. I know it's not assigned to any sheet, so it's not going to print. Where I've been in projects where I've had section 1 through like 340. And when that's done that way, it just really convolutes your project browser. And I don't know why any of those sections were created, so I deleted them all. And a lot of my team was kind of frustrated because I deleted their working sections. Well, if you would have named it, then I wouldn't have deleted it. So naming conventions, like I said, in my trainings, I harp on that all the time. That's important from a, just a general company standards. It's good practice, file naming, files, folders, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, so you'll see we have level 1 and level 2, and there isn't any other levels within our project. And that's how these views were created and associated, because they need a level for that association. Fantastic. All right, Jared, what's the next steps that we're going to do? So we are going to insert. So how we link in any of our files is under the Insert tab. And you'll see we've got a lot of different file types. You can experiment with these. The coordination models are like NWCs, NWDs. You can bring those in. I'm not going to get into that in this one. One word of caution, if you are using DWGs or CAD files, there is a link or an import. Depends on the need or the use of those. I always recommend linking them in, because then if anything changes, it's just a matter of refreshing. Whereas an import, it is going to remain at that for the entirety until you delete it and re-import it, and then you've got to remove it. It's just a pain in the butt. Hopefully at this point, you're not actually utilizing any DWGs, but in the event that you do, I always recommend linking. Okay, Revit links. So what we're going to do is we are going to link our first model here. And let me get into where I have that. So you'll drill into the location that you have your files saved out. Most projects that you'll be dealing with, this will be on Autodesk, Forma, Construction Cloud, or whatever the heck they renamed it. But we'll drill into it. So you follow the folder structure. Depending on the BIM execution plan, your file naming convention may or may not have the version of Revit on the end of it. I love having this just as a quick and easy visual cue to make sure that we have the right version of Revit for our project that we have. And the other thing as well, for those that may not be aware, Revit is not backwards compatible. Once you upgrade your file, that's it. So if this project happened to be in 24, but I make my model in Revit 25, nobody that's utilizing Revit 24 can bring that link in and we can't use it. Everybody would have to upgrade to 25, and that's a whole other discussion that I could talk about for probably about 3 weeks. So I digress. The other thing that we have too is our positioning. There are a lot of different options of our positioning that we have available when we bring in our linked files. Unless it's spelled out in, say, a BIM execution plan to do it a different way, I always recommend just doing internal origin to internal origin. It's a way that everything should line up based off of the architectural. And you'll see in this case, the architectural coordinate systems are going to line up really nicely with our base center location here. So now that we have our architectural link model in, and anytime we link any files in, the first thing that you want to do with them is you want to pin your file. And the reason that you want to pin your file is as we're working and coordinating and populating conduit and lights and panels and devices, if I Windows select some of those devices, and for instance, okay, so I'm gonna unpin this. Let's say, I'm in here and I'm Windows selecting, and I don't realize, thankfully, my selection color is this beautiful magenta here. If you don't realize that you selected your link and you go to move certain elements and devices, you'll notice that all of a sudden my architectural model has moved as well. And that's going to be a huge problem because now nothing is going to line up correctly from a shared coordinate standpoint. It gets into a lot of issues and a lot of frustration from the Navisworks side of things. From a documentation standpoint, PDFs, the sheets within our project, okay, maybe not that big of a deal, but this is why we're talking about it. It's all about the best practices and what not to do and the reasons why. So I want to make sure that I don't, that I actually have all of my elements pinned, because once they're pinned, I cannot move them at all. Whether I Windows select, whether I use my move command, you'll see I get this error that you cannot move a pinned element. I love it. I don't want it to move. I want it to stay exactly where it is. And as you can see, my working section is rather gigantic, so I don't actually need it to be this big. So we're going to shrink this down quite a bit here, just so it encompasses our model, like pretty much just the extents of our architectural link here. And in my training, for people that aren't entirely familiar with sections and how they work, I equate them to, say, a slice of bread. Our model is the loaf of bread, and then our section is one of the slices out of that bread. The nice thing is I can choose how thick or thin I want the slice of bread, and then whether my orientation is, in this case, east-west or north-south. And the section, the way that I also equate it is like your head and your eyes. The visible part of our section here is where our eyes are, and then how far out we have our far clip offset is just how far we can see. The reason that we need to do that is when we get into here, we are going to utilize, you can see my levels. I've already got 2 levels in. Our architectural has quite a few more. And what we want to do with these is we want to do what's called monitor the architectural levels and their position to ours. So my level 2 here is at 10 foot and the architectural is at 12.6. Okay, well, how do we move it? If I select my level, I can change my elevation here to 12.6. Revit knows the first number is treated as feet, as space indicates the separation, and then the second number is indicated as inches. So if I do 12.6, that saves me a couple of keystrokes of putting in the foot and inches. And you'll see now my level 2 automatically comes up to that 12'6" location. Next thing we're going to do is under our Collaborate tab, we're going to copy monitor, and we want to select the link we want to monitor. And what this is going to do is it's going to monitor changes between the location that we have and the architectural. So with that, I selected my architectural link, and I want to monitor the relationship between my level 2 by clicking once. You'll see now this is highlighted, and now I can select any of the architectural levels, and I'm going to select the architectural level 2. And if I zoom out a little bit, this symbol right here is the monitor symbol. So I know now my level 2 is monitoring architectural level 2. I'll do the same thing under my monitor, select my level 1, select the architectural level 1, and now we have that monitor there now as well. That's all well and good, Jared. Okay, so what do we do about the other levels within our project? So imagine this is a 40-story high-rise. Well, I could, let me finish monitoring these grids here. So if I select them both, you'll see the monitor symbol. So I could go and create levels and try and snap them to, the third level here and create one. Well, okay, well, now the naming's weird, so now I got to name this. So it gets to be kind of a pain in the butt. No, I don't want to name corresponding views. Oh, crud, now I got to change this to, so as you can see, this gets really cumbersome. I don't want to do that for 30-some floors. Yep, that's perfectly fine. I want to get rid of those. So what else can we do, Jared? Under a Collaborate tab, our copy monitor, we select our architectural link again. And if I just hover over the model, this little window pops up, this little sticky note that says, hey, you're hovering over the Revit links architectural model. So I know this is correct. And when I select this, you can see we have the copy tab or a copy as well. So this is going to copy elements from a linked project into our host project. If I select multiple, the nice thing is then I can just window select a bunch of different elements. Asterisk, caution, warning. I don't want to copy and monitor walls, mullions, floors, stairs. Well, how do I deselect those elements? Right here I can filter. And so I can check none, and I only want to focus on my levels. But also here, danger, Will Robinson. I already have a level 1 and a level 2. If I copy level 1 and level 2 from the architectural model, then when I'm placing my elements, I'm going to have to dictate which level 1 I place my elements, which level 2 I place my elements. You don't want to do that. I've had a project where I had 2 level 1s and 2 level 2s, and my schedules were screwed up because half the elements were placed on this level 1, the other half were placed on this level 1. And when I was using my schedule to sort by level 1, not 0-1 entry level, I wasn't finding the things that I needed. Then you got to change them from one reference plane to another. Huge disaster, huge pain in the ass. Deselect your views or your levels that we already have created. We don't want duplicates. So now I have 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, I'm going to check my filter quick. Levels 4. Beautiful. I am not screwing anything else up. I'm not copying anything. And this is where I think they fixed this in 26, but if you miss this finish here, this is specifically talking about the copy monitor. So we need to finish the copy monitor first. And you'll see it took a little time, but now you'll see I've got 4 monitor symbols and I can select those levels now. And so, okay, that's great. Now, how do I finish this tool? Well, we have to either select or go back into our copy monitor tab, or if we hit escape to deselect the selected elements, it'll automatically bring us back to that. And then we can finish. So now we have our 4 levels that we copied them from the architectural, and they are monitored. The other thing that we need to do here, however, is our original levels 1 and 2, they are not extended out to match, and they're a 3D element, not extended out to the extents of the rest of our project here. Well, Jared, that doesn't matter. Let me show you something quick. So let's say I have an electrical closet over in this part of the building, and if I don't extend my levels out to encompass the entirety of the building, and I've got a section here, I don't have the first and second floor reference. That's a huge problem. I need that as my reference. So what we need to do within our setup here is both in our east and west direction and our north-south direction, is if we select our level, this little blue circle here, this is our control. This lock icon is this dashed line saying our heads are locked together. That's exactly what we want. So now if I move one, it moves both. Well, okay, now I got to get it all the way to the right. So I don't want to move, drag, move, drag, move, drag. Little trick that I fell across is if you select drag the extents, left click and hold, and you drag off of your main window and you release your left click, it still holds that control. So now I am free to use my middle mouse button to pan across, and it, as you see, it keeps dragging with. And then if I come over here and I snap, you see it's snapping here. That means it's going to now lock all of my level heads together. And now that lock icon is there. And we can do the exact same thing with our tail as well. I'm going to left click and hold now, and I can just drag to the extents, snap them to our tails. Great. Now I'm going to undo my temporary hide isolate. And so our east-west direction of our levels is exactly where we want it. Now I need to do the same thing for a north-south. So my working section, I'm going to move it off to the west or east, doesn't matter which way. I'm going to rotate our O 90 degrees because I want it to be specifically perpendicular. Make sure I'm out far enough here. And what I did with the rotate command is when you rotate, I just click once arbitrarily in space. I move my mouse the direction I want to rotate instead of trying to snap. Because as you'll see, if depending on what's in your model, you're going to be snapping to, in this case, 48.68 degrees. No, I don't want that. I don't want to try and get to 90 because, 90.75, 87, pain in the ass, hate it, hate it, hate it. Click once, move your mouse in the direction you want to rotate, type in the degree of rotation, hit enter, and you know it's exact and precise to what you want. All right, here we go. And our other direction here, if I'm looking at this, you'll see my tails and my heads are well inside my building. So my north-south, I also want to, come on now. Yes, I know. Why are you giving me grief here? I know it's set to a sharp angle. All right, well, we're going to try this. We're going to hide our model here. Oh, come on. Why are you giving me grief? I know it's set to a steep angle. It's supposed to be. It's 90 degrees. There we go. So I wasn't able to select my end here for whatever reason. So I just shifted my working section a little bit, as you saw. Now I'm able to grab my heads and my tails, snap them, reset my temporary hide isolate, and away we go. So we've got now our architectural link in and pinned. We've got our levels copied and monitored. And now the other vitally important thing is to pin our levels as well for the exact same reason. I don't want to accidentally move one of my levels up or down, or in even worse of a case, accidentally delete one of my levels, because not all, the greater majority of elements that are associated with that level will also be deleted. That happened to me once, and we lost about 4 weeks of detailing for prefabrication. Thankfully, we had a backup of our file, so we only actually lost about 5 hours of production for one day. But lesson learned, always pin, because any pinned element, if you delete, you get this warning: pinned objects were not deleted. So benefit number 2 of pinning. Whew, fantastic. Okay, time is running a little short here. We got a little bit of time left, but next up, so our architectural model controls our levels. Our structural model controls our grids. But Jared, we haven't put in a structural model in. I know, but we're going to do that now. Same thing. Insert, link Revit, structural file, origin to origin. Brings our model in. We'll get this warning because our structural model is also linking in the architectural. So the link of our link is not going to appear. Beautiful. That's exactly what I want. I don't want to see the architectural model in my structural model. Now we do the exact same thing, but instead of doing our copy monitor from our section, we're going to copy monitor from our floor plan. Collaborate, copy monitor, select link. But you'll see, I don't want to select my architectural. That's why I hover, I pause just a little bit to make sure that that little window brings up the file I actually want to. So in this case, you see structural. Quick tip: if I select my structural link first and I temporarily isolate just my structural model, that's the only thing I see. I can only select one item. Makes this process super easy. Copy monitor, select link, blam, I know it's my structural model. Copy multiple items, huge window select, filter. I do not want to copy monitor my floors or my walls. I only want my grids. Hit OK. Finish my copy monitor first. It's going to take a little bit. Now you see, beautiful. We've got all these gorgeous copy monitor symbols. And now if I hit escape to deselect, or I go to my copy monitor tab up here, we finish that. And then now all of our grids have been copied into our project now, and they are monitored to the structural model. Last thing we got to do, window select. We want to pin everything. We want to pin our Revit link and our 27 grids, because then now we can't accidentally delete them. We can't accidentally move them. Beautiful. All right, reset, temporary, hide, isolate. All right, Jared, cool. Why the hell do we go through this and bother with our copy monitor? Well, I'm glad you asked, Jared, because we do the copy monitor, because in the event that the architectural needed to change one of their levels to a different elevation. As you see, we got 12.6 here. If I refresh my architectural link, we're going to get this error. Instance of link needs a coordination review. All right, cool. What the F does that mean? You'll see, I'm just going to change my scale here a little bit. The architect moved the second floor to 13.6 instead of 12.6. What that's saying is Revit saying, hey, I told you I wanted you to follow these elements. Something is different. How do you want me to handle that? So under our collaborate tab, if we review our coordination of our architectural model, you'll see, level moved by 1 foot. How do you want to address this? So this gives you the changes that happened so that you can evaluate, oh, was this an accident? Is this actually a change? So I'm going to leave this alone. I don't actually want to change anything yet until we get confirmation from a construction bulletin or the architect or designer themselves that yes, in fact, we did change that instead of a whoops, let's revert that and change that back because we actually didn't want to do that. So I'm just going to hit OK. I'm just going to leave this. I'm just going to postpone any action. But that's why we want to do the copy monitor, because then Revit gives us a warning if something has changed, and then it lets us decide how we want to address that. Whew. Oh, right. Next thing. Last thing that we're going to be covering here before I jump into the Q&A portion. I appreciate everybody sticking with this here. Like I said, I know I'm going super fast. Is we are going to save our file. We want to save as our project. And then we are going to name our project here. And once again, we need to follow whatever the naming convention is. This is the amp up your electrical modeling. It's my coordination model. Once again, following the BIM execution plan, but I love having the version of Revit on the back of it. And I'm just going to save this file out because we've got everything set up architecturally, structurally. Yay, hooray, this is fantastic. We used our template that has our content, which is awesome. And then now the last thing that we're going to do is create what's called a work share enabled model. Great, Jared, what the heck does that mean? Work share enabled model allows multiple people to work in the same model at the same time. So if you've heard of a central model before, a central model is a work share enabled model that has been saved as a central model that allows multiple users to access that same file. And we're going to go through what that looks like under our collaborate tab after we've saved our file. We're going to hit collaborate. And oh boy, geez, what happened? I probably moved the camera. So I'm going to save my model and continue. And this is going to, it doesn't necessarily make a ton of sense, but I've had issues where if I go straight to the cloud, it doesn't actually create the central model how I need it to. So I always start by collaborating within my network first, and I'm going to hit OK. It's going to go through the process. And what you'll see down here is this was not here before. And if I open this up, probably kind of hard to see, but I have 2 different work sets. And for those of you that are familiar with AutoCAD, work sets work very, very similarly to levels. The active work set is the one that you have selected, and any elements that you are placing will be on this specific work set. You can turn off or freeze or turn off the visibility for specific work sets. We can filter objects by work sets. So there's a couple of schools of thought. Some people don't like them because if you're not used to using them and you forget to change your proper work set to what you need when you're populating, you have to go back through, select those elements, get them back on the right work set. You can change the work set. So if you do want to use work sets, just build it into your standard operating procedure. Everybody uses it. Everybody knows it. And the very first thing that every technician or the first thing that anybody does is open up your model, work set, go to the correct work set, Now I'm ready to start my day. All right, that's fantastic, Jared. But now what? Well, we're going to save our project one more time. And you'll see, oh, now this is the first time we're saving since work sharing was enabled. This is going to automatically create it as a central model. So do I want to save this project as the central model? I'm just going to click no for right now so I can show you. I do this just for some visual cues to make sure that I'm doing this right. So go into File, Save As. Our options here, make this central model after save. That's why I got that error when I just clicked save, not error, that notification, because it's automatically doing this for me because it is workshare enabled. And then the backups here, this matters more if you are on a local server. If we are converting this into a cloud model on ACC/Forma, this doesn't matter as much at all. But like I said, a local server, this is your backups. So 20 synchronizes to central are saved. So if for whatever reason you need to revert to 18 saves ago, you can. But if we only have this at 10, you can only go back to 10. 1 means you only get 1. So also asterisk, this also increases the amount of data on your server based off of the size of the file. You've got 20 backup iterations of said Revit file. So I'm going to hit OK, and I'm going to save up or save over top of this file itself, which is perfectly fine because this is the intent of me doing this project setup. Now my central model is established, and I know that because now I can do my synchronize and modify settings. And I'm going to hit this and hit OK. And then before I publish this out to anybody else, I'm going to do one more thing to verify the central model is created correctly. And so even though I've saved it and synchronized, do you want to save your changes? I'm going to say yes. And then opening it properly is also hugely important. I never, ever use my recent files because if this is not pathed correctly, it's going to actually open the central model, severing all ties to everybody else's files, which, oh man, that's so awful. Getting a notification from 6 team members saying, hey, I got this error. I can't push my changes that I've been working on the last 2 hours to the central model. Well, somebody opened the file improperly, severing all those ties. Womp, womp. Okay, open. Drill to your project location. Select, don't double click. Select the model. Visual cues, Revit 24, Revit 24, right here, work sharing. Create new local. If this is grayed out and you cannot have this create new local, that means something has happened to your central model. First big, huge red flag. That means somebody opened up the central model, severing everybody's ties. This is exactly how I want it to look. And I always, always, always open my session at Revit, go to open, drill to my project location, click once, select just for these quick visual cues, open. And now the second set of visual cues that everybody has opened their project of a central model the correct way, it's right here. You'll see my file name is ampup_coordination R24, but then it also has underscore and my Autodesk account username. If you do not see your username on the file name up here, that means you have opened the central model and severed everybody else's ties. It will have to get reestablished as a central model. Everybody will have to reopen said central file with their local copy. So imagine, you're pressing for a submission or a sign off, and somebody severs that tie. Gosh, is that just a pain in the ass. Whew. All right. I know I hammered through a lot of stuff and I was moving very, very, very quickly, but any questions? Any observations? The other thing that I will also ask as well, any topics or ideas or things that you would love to see with the Amp Up series? I would love to know things that you want to learn about, figure out, learn in an hour session. And those are things that we will consider for future Amp Up topics. No, everybody's good. Everybody loves it. Was this a good start to the Amp Up series? I would like to know your comments. Ooh, all right. We do have a good question here. All right. If somebody only fixed one thing in their setup process tomorrow, what would give them the biggest return? I would say the thing that's going to give you the absolute biggest bang for your buck if you do not have it set up yet is your Revit template file or your Revit project template. I know those sound very, very similar, but the one thing that I will say with the Revit template file, so your RTE, once again, is they do not have links associated with them. So any adjustments we make to visibility of our linked files will not transfer. Now, if we utilize, say, our Amp Up coordination as our Revit template project, what I can do with that is under my view templates. So in this case, I'm going to apply my electrical plan here to this view. And you'll see nothing changed, which is perfectly fine. So if I have a dummy architectural, structural, mechanical, plumbing, HVAC, electrical, whatever Revit files in here, what I can do is I can adjust my view templates. So that is electrical plan. You'll see now I have the ability to adjust my overrides for my Revit links. And what I'm doing here is we've got all of these doubled up grids, doubled up levels, really, really annoying. I hate it. I want it to be nice and clean. So what I'm doing here is in my electrical plan view template, because I have these dummy links, I can change my display settings. So now this is a huge word of caution. If we're customizing this and we change this to not be host view in certain aspects, then your host view is not going to be able to turn off certain elements. Now, from our linked files, I don't care about their annotations. And annotations, even though our grids and our levels have a 3D plane, they are still a two-dimensional annotation. So what I don't care about are any of my annotations in my architectural, because if I want room tags, I want to control the location. I don't want them to be just static based off of the architectural model. So I want to turn off all annotation categories in my architectural and also my structural model. And now, because that is a part of my view template, you'll see, boom, that cleaned that up really, really nice. We don't have the double and tripling up of our annotation elements in both our floor plans. And I didn't do this in our elevation, or sorry, our section. But if we did that also with our electrical section here, right quick, you'll see that Now our levels are cleaned up, and the scale changed because I had this at a half inch. My template is eighth inch. That's why the text size looks like it changed in my view. But now any view that we have that I assign that electrical plan to, all of that's cleaned up. So boom, I've got that. Now this is my project template file, not my Revit template RTE. When I go through and I change my links from the dummy link to the actual project, you'll see all of my annotations are still clean. My project looks great. So that's the project template versus the Revit template file. That's the benefit of doing that. But once again, different school of thought. So that's the one thing I would do is get your template dialed in, get the families loaded in, get the line styles, get that loaded in that you use on 85% of your projects. Then every project you do, it's the exact same. You've got your cover sheet, you've got your splash screen, you've got all the information that you need per project, always on every single one. Browser organization is the same, makes it real simple. All right. Excellent. I'd like to see a session on geolocating model files properly. I can use it doing an API, but it's pretty tedious and there's got to be a better way. It's a great topic, and session on building and maintaining families. That is a great topic as well. The building and maintaining families, that would be something that we could absolutely do some baseline on a parametrics families. But getting, just like Revit, there's 1,000 ways to do the same thing. And you can make families simple and usable, or you can make them incredibly complicated and kind of confusing. So keeping that in mind is also a fantastic thing. As far as the geolocating models, oftentimes the general contractor will say, okay, grid A1, we're going to have this coordinate system there. So that is definitely something that we can touch base on in a future session. So I don't know about you guys, but that hour went by incredibly fast for me. Sorry, guys and gals. I really appreciate you joining us for the webinar here today. I hope it was valuable. Appreciate you taking the chance on the first session that we have here. And let me go. One last shameless plug. Once again, I am the BIM Accelerate trainer for the electrical program. A little bit of information here about it. Feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions, and we'd be happy to talk to you further. Once again, thank you all very much for joining me here today on this beautiful Friday, and look forward to seeing you again soon. Take care.